Magnolia Title, we're located at 1885 St. James Place, about 10 minutes from Bell's office here. We are a boutique title company, and we have great escrow officers, Parker Witt and Julia Gustin, that I've worked with for a number of years, and they've been in the industry for 20 plus years. So they've seen it all. And we also have a commercial escrow attorney, Tom Osborne, another veteran with the title industry. So we really look forward to working with all of y'all. And one thing that makes us unique, Magnolia Title, is that we will come to you for the closing. So if you have clients that don't want to drive into the Galleria area, we will do the closing here at your office. Actually, Julie, who normally comes with me, she's actually down in like Jackson today doing the closing as the seller wasn't able to drive in. And she's like, you know what, I will save you the $150 or $200 for the mobile notary, and I'm gonna come to you. So we really look forward to working with all of y'all. We've had the privilege of working with y'all for a number of years when we were at another title company. So in case your clients are ever wondering who our underwriters are, it's Stewart Title, West Core, Fidelity, and Chicago. Those are our underwriters. So we hope to have the opportunity to work with y'all. And also tomorrow, if you need 1 hour seat, we are hosting a FICO one-on-one class with William Stewart at our office. And the next week, we're doing a staging to sell class at Elizabeth Cole. So I hope y'all can join us.
So much. All right. So this is our panel that we have here today for Leverage Your Business with Listings. And I'm going to start with Troy. And I'd like for each of you to go around and like introduce yourself, tell a little bit about how long you've been in the business, and then we can get started from there.
I'm Troy Chase. Run Troy Chase Realty Group out of Lake City area mostly. So if you have any folks in the Clear Lake area or whatnot, we'd love to help them out, and we will pay you a significant referral fee, I promise. Also, I've been in business coming up on my 3rd anniversary coming up, and as a team, we've been in existence for about 2 years. We started in August, so we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. And I think production last year, are we doing that? Okay, like 22, 23 million last year in production. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Colette Franz. I've been at this office just under 2 years. Been with Keller Williams for almost 4 years, and then previously was under my father-in-law, who was a broker, for about 12 years. So I've been in the business a lot. I've had a lot of experience, and I'd say majority of it is construction, new construction. You know, going from dirt to closing. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Drew De Silva, and I just finished my 5th year in the business. Last year's production was just shy of 18 million. I'm a single agent. And I cover the city and do a lot in the northeast side of Houston, but we'll go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Norbert Rivera. I just started Rivera Real Estate Group this past year. This is my 5th year in the business. Work primarily in the southwest side, Richmond, Rosenberg, Sugarland area, and surrounding areas. You know, and this year looking for the goal of around 11, 12 million.
My name is Michael Burrell. I've been in the business for 4 years. I'm not sure exactly what my production was or is, but slowly increasing every year.
Awesome, thank you guys. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kim Roberts. I am the education chair here in our office, and I get the pleasure of talking to these guys today. I just want to go over a few rules, a little bit rule oriented. So questions, if you have a question, for those of you in Zoom, we're going to mute you all, but you can ask your questions at the end. You can type them in the chat and we'll get to you. For those of you that are here, at the end, we'll pass the mic around. And if you have questions, you'll be able to ask them at that time. But for now, we're just going to kind of go through the questions we already have prepared for them. And hopefully you'll get some insight into your business today. Okay, so we all talk about the 80-20 rule. To have leverage in what we do, what activities do you perform every day in order for that 20% and for the 80%? And anyone can pick up and start and we'll kind of go around.
I'm told. Okay, so for me, 20%, where the majority of our business comes from is sphere of influence. As much as I run away from it, it keeps showing back up. And so basically what ends up happening is I make about 10 phone calls a day, you know, for a lot of times y'all see like 25 phone calls or 30 phone calls or contacts or whatever, and people want you to do these 100, I don't know, 300 phone calls. I hear that all the time, and to me, I personally can't sit there and do this. So I'd rather talk to the people that I know and love. And we've kind of changed our script up a little bit. It's no longer do we just straight up say like, hey, do you have anyone who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? We have now gotten a little bit more specific as to get their minds going a little bit more, where we talk about, you know, do you have anybody that you know who just recently became pregnant? Is their house, their situation at home, are they gonna need more space, or are they running out of rooms? Do you know anybody who has seniors that are gonna be graduating this year? Are they gonna be empty nesters come summertime? Are they gonna be needing to downsize? And then that way it gets people's minds thinking about the people that they know and love a little bit more, as opposed to just like, random people who talk to me about real estate. I don't know, you know what I mean? So we've kind of changed that up a little bit. So that's kind of how that 20% kind of generates the majority of our business. A couple other things that I do is I'll do some live videos on Facebook. We do food trucks every week, whether we have an open house or not. And so some of the activities that we as a team do together on that are, I'll do the Facebook post, we'll post it to the neighborhood page. Hey, we're gonna be in your neighborhood this week, Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. Bring friends, bring family. We're gonna be handing out free ice cream. And hopefully let's talk about real estate if you got a chance, you know. And then we've got smart plans set up for this, so it's almost automatic. They'll send out 2 auto texts through Twilio and 2 mass emails to everybody that we have contact information in that neighborhood alone, plus the 700 people that we have had added to our database from those ice cream social events over the past year. We figure if they're able to come to one ice cream social event and they see that we're not going to attack them like the birds, you know, and try and get them to buy or sell real estate, that they're more than likely going to be able to come back and get some more free ice cream from us. So that's pretty much what our week looks like. Like that pretty much narrows down our lead gen for the week.
Somebody else might tell me what you do, like you wake up on Monday morning, you know that you have to do, you know, what do you have to do to be able to, you know, to get your listings for the week, or?
I think majority of my side is Sphere as well, and I think we all have a really big advantage that people didn't have years ago, which is the social media. Because you are friends with people you aren't really friends with, maybe people that you know from high school or college or wherever. And the more you post on social media, the more exposure you get to people indirectly. And learned early on that everyone wants to talk about real estate. So the more you can get on top of mind. For instance, if you know people are doing social things such as say they're starting a basketball league or a fantasy football league, or there's a fundraising campaign for an organization that a lot of you know, or if you know that no other people will be there, I think it's really important to be a part of that, because as I said, everyone wants to talk about real estate, and if they know you're in real estate, they're going to talk to you about it. And the more that when they think of real estate and your name comes up, that's what you want. One more thing on that note, if you do get involved in those organizations, one thing I've started doing, which has been pretty effective, is, for instance, I'm Jewish, and there's a Jewish Federation organization where like 300 people go once a year to fundraise and all this stuff. I know the majority of those people are living in Mireland or Bel Air. And so before I go, I spend maybe 30 minutes looking at all of the recent data for those 2 neighborhoods. So I know that whenever they ask me, I'm gonna be ready, and they're gonna think, oh man, this guy knows everything about this area. I gotta use him. Same reason for other sports leagues that I've met. Some guys live in the Heights, Timber Grove. I look at that before every game that we have that week. And when they, because everyone wants to know, how's the market? Is it good? Answer's always good, by the way. And I know what to say to them when they ask them. So just, that's something that has been effective. It makes you look like you're super professional, very knowledgeable, even though you already are. But that's just something I suggest. Thanks, Elton.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, like the two guys have said, it's really been the spirit, but really asking for the referrals themselves. That's been the biggest uptick in my business, was asking. And I think at this point I've closed 18 referrals this year just on referrals. And that's where, you don't realize it, but even when we're working on several other deals, you still have those advocates that are working for you. And, it's also about training of how to tell you, because I think some of the mistakes I made early in my career was, give them my name and number. And they may do that, but just like, we will forget different things here and there. Give us the number, I'll call them, and I'll make sure that I put them on a drip campaign, on different smart plans, whatever that is. So I think that's gonna be the biggest key, is really training those, our sphere to give us the information so we can reach out. And then also, like, really just asking. That's the biggest thing.
I'm not sure, these ideas are so great, I'm sort of soaking them in myself. I think for me, just I'm very referral based. I do a lot of open houses. I farm my neighborhood quite a bit, and I've lived there 15 years, and I've gotten to know a number of people in the neighborhood. I do a lot of open houses, and in that particular neighborhood, I like to do all of my own open houses. I want to get to know everybody that's looking and all that. So I don't think there's anything else lead generation based. Just a ton of follow up. People will throw out the names. I put them in my Outlook and I follow up with them. I think that's just such a basic thing that just gets lost at times.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I do repetitively recently is social media. And I remember like 2 years ago when I was on a team in Keller Williams and up in Spring, and they're like, you have to post every single day. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is embarrassing. I don't want to do it, right? But eventually, like, you get comfortable with it. And as long as your social media is clean, simple, has a good information, even if they're not liking it or getting all the likes, it's passing through their feed and they're like, it's just realtor. So I stopped putting as much personal stuff on it and put more, things that are happening in my business, like new listings, what's gone pending. If I put an offer on something, make it super simple, and then sprinkle in some of your personal life, because they want to learn about you. They want to be able to trust you, because they want to know that you're a good person, that you're easy to talk to. And so it's like diving in with your personality and building those relationships, because on social media, you're building relationships without even talking to them. And so I would say and then after that, to back up on that, in my business, is I'm really present. Like, I've got 2 boys, one at Second Baptist, one at St. Mark's Lutheran, different schools, different audiences. So, and then you dive into being a room mom. My poor boys are in every single sport, but I'm present. My email's going out to the entire team. My email's going out to the entire class. Eventually, within the first few weeks of school, they all know I'm a realtor. Then when you get to the game on the field, exactly right. How's the real estate market? Great. Spring Branch is amazing, right? So it's just diving into my life and then enjoying what I like to do. I love being a part of my kids' lives and being at their games, and I'm super athletic. I played 2 tennis leagues, and I sponsor all the balls for every single game. Because again, it's coming from Colette Franz, the realtor. I swim a lot, and just from swimming, I have had 3 deals this year, which are like $3 million. So, because I like to swim, and they know Colette is there, and she's constantly there, so it's a repetitive, like it is a weekly thing, it's something I do every week that I love, but it's also a reminder that Colette in the water next to me is a realtor, and in between sets, we'll talk about the market or if someone's moving or changing jobs. So I think my biggest give is like, just be present, do things you like to do and get involved with other people. And you can communicate in different ways, like on my social media, Colette Franz, Colette Franz Realtor on Instagram, Colette Franz, you can look me up every single day, but don't be, just make it you, be you.
That's great stuff. I agree wholeheartedly. So what I heard from this week, I'm just gonna recap, is for that 20%, it's making your phone calls to your sphere or to people that you've maybe met at an event, an open house or whatever. It's getting involved in different activities and letting everyone know that you're a realtor. It's when you have the open houses, being knowledgeable about the market area that you're in. It's being present on social media and making sure that everyone out there knows that you're a realtor. And then one of the biggest things that you all touched on was asking for a referral. And so I think a lot of us don't do that. So that's really great information. And then, so let's see. So let's switch. Today's market, everything's moving pretty quickly. I know you said that you worked a lot in new construction. What are some other areas that you see? Do you see anything in short sales, bank owned property? Where are you getting your listings?
All right, so like right off the bat, stuff that we have coming soon or stuff within the last month or so has almost all still been sphere of influence. We've had a few people from those ice cream social events that straight up just be like, hey, we're looking to sell our house, or my sister's looking to sell their house, or whatever. Would you be willing to meet with them? Like, of course. And so I've seen a lot of that. The short sales, foreclosures, Norbert and I talked a little bit before we even started this, and he said that he's heard, go ahead, tell about that. Let's do the thunder.
Yeah, I excuse me, I had spoken to a lender a few weeks ago asking about this specifically. And I mean, the information I was given is they're still gonna go through the foreclosure process, that it may still be a few months out before those start in the market. I would reach out to those trusted resources that y'all may have, but that's what was told to me. I'm interested to see it. I've got a few people that I know that are waiting for those to hit the market, and they're ready to jump on it.
Yeah, I haven't seen them yet, so that's my part. Yeah. About y'all?
I was on the buyer side of a foreclosure in Spring Branch on Westview, and that was actually my first experience in a foreclosure process. So it went real smooth. It's unusual for this area and this time right now, but that's my only experience with it.
Okay. I do have one foreclosure experience. I will say, I was talking to Claude about it earlier. We actually saved a family from foreclosure because right now there's a lot more equity in the homes. And so we were able to sell it before they foreclosed. And so I would venture to say that there's a lot of people out there. And so maybe on social media or whatever means you have, you're reaching out to your network, because a lot of people are embarrassed. They don't want people to know that they're in that financial those straits, is you might reach out and say, now might be the good time for us to take a look at this so that we can get you in a better spot.
Specifically, I was just looking up numbers in two of the neighborhoods that we were farming, or that we farm regularly this morning. And year over year, average home sales price in this particular neighborhood, one was 300 and the other one was 311. And then the one neighborhood was up 25% in sold price versus the other one was 25 and 35% for the two neighborhoods. So one, you're at 300 and now at 405, and then the other one's like 311 and then at 390. So like the foreclosures in short sales specifically, like you're talking about, they've added $100,000 in equity over the last year. Great opportunity for them to be saved from that type of situation, because otherwise they're going to be hurting. So.
Right. So kind of moving on, we talked about, getting listings and sellers, and you said like you're at an event, someone reach out that says they want to sell your house. What is a good like, how quickly do you act on that? When you get a referral from somebody, like, what's the response time we should have?
2 seconds later.
Exactly. Oh my God.
As soon as possible, as soon as possible.
Let's see, when you advise your sellers on preparing to sell, what advice are you giving them to maximize the most out of their listing of their house?
I'll take that one. I'm militant upfront, and it translates into higher price, higher sales price for my clients. I go in there, I offer a walk and talk consultation on me. I'm bringing in an appraiser on me to measure if I need to, if I feel like there's more square footage to be found there. I come off probably a little direct with people initially, but it pays off for them every single time. And they thank me later. In fact, most of them say, oh my gosh, I basically have them clear out as much as they can. And I'll bring in the stager and if the home is empty, she may stage completely, and that's great. Maybe they have furniture that's usable, and she just helps move things around and declutter. Of course, I don't say declutter, because I say pre-pack. You're moving anyway, just go ahead and pre-pack.
I like that.
But I mean, I listed my neighbor's home recently, and it's a beautiful home, but I just still felt like there's just things to put away. And so you go in there and it just makes such a difference. We all look at horror every day, and you look at pictures, and there's got to be a place for your eye to rest. There just can't be too many things on kitchen counters and bathroom counters and all that stuff. The more calm and peaceful, it will translate into higher dollars. So I do a lot of marketing, a lot of beautiful marketing. I spend probably 15, 20 hours in that house doing my marketing before, when it hits the market, and it pays off, quicker sale and more money for my clients.
Yeah, I agree. Every listing I get, I meet them at their property, and I'm completely transparent, completely honest. Like, you need a landscaper here now. So I usually coordinate it. I coordinate the landscaping, washing the windows, gutters, whatever we need, power washing a lot of the time. Then my stager meets me there, and no matter what, usually I would say 99% of the time I'm staging the house, and I pay for it, which is a big that's an overhead cost for me, but I know I'm gonna sell that house faster, because it just, once you walk in, it presents itself better. And then a big thing for me is smell. So it's really weird, but I will do candles or those plugins, or even have the house clean. But I'm using my people, and I'm sending them to that house. And some of the listings, I can afford it because the commission is worth it. So I'll pay for everything. And I think that my sellers appreciate that.
Yeah, that is a great question, because I literally am working this. I got a referral yesterday. 5 minutes later, I'm making the phone call, and I walked the house. It was a house in my neighborhood where I grew up, and ironically, I was driving by there, and I know the family, and the parents were there, so I walked the house briefly. That's going to be something where I have a very straightforward conversation where I know what the house is worth once it's fixed up, and she can get about $60,000 more if she puts $15,000 to $20,000 in it, and it's those areas there. So that's going to be a very straightforward conversation. But hey, to maximize your dollar, this is what you need to do. Now, she may not have that money, and that's a different conversation we're going to have. But that's going to be one of those things where she's going to see the value if she does it. So it's really kind of pushing forward for that.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I was very hesitant to be straightforward with sellers, because sometimes it can come off as insulting, I guess. So you have to be careful to word it in a good way. But for instance, because sometimes you don't know how much money they're willing to put in their house. You may know that the entire house needs to be painted or landscaping. There may be stress cracks. It's probably a good idea to fix that, especially if you're going to paint. But I go in and I tell them the optimal, from my viewpoint, the optimal cleanup, not renovation, but cleanup of their house to present it in the best light. I tell them every single thing that I would do if I was selling this house and if it were mine. So if you don't, I've learned that it's not gonna show well, it's not gonna sell for the price you may be quoting them at. And it also protects you too, and only, not everyone's gonna listen to you either, and that's gonna show up on the feedback after buyers see the house. So if they show, if you tell them you need to clean this, if you replace the wood rot on the side of the house, landscaping, and someone shows the house and provides feedback that says the house is a complete mess, it smells, there's a strong dog or smoke smell in there, etc. Sometimes that's what it takes to listen to, but I think it's really important to show them, tell them exactly what you would do if this was your own house to sell.
Awesome, I love great advice. So when we are in that transaction, what are the most important affiliates that you work with in your listings or in your business, lenders, title, like, can you kind of walk us through what they do for you?
I would say the triple threats, lender, title, and inspectors are so important. If one of them screws up, it's on you, it's your suggestion, it's your recommendation, and there's no turning back. A lot of buyers do not understand that inspectors are also human and they miss things, but when they miss something big, which, that really doesn't happen that much, and that's why you recommend them still. But that comes back on you. If a title company delays and they forget something, they forget to order an HOA resale certificate, and except for 2 days before, and your closing is tomorrow, and then it's delayed for another week, it's on you. Same thing with lenders. If you're supposed to, there's a 3-day waiting period to get your document, yes, clear to close. If they send that at 8 o'clock at night on that 3rd day, which happens all the time for some reason I don't understand, that's going to come on you, because if they're at dinner, if they're out of town and they can't do it, their closing is delayed. So your team, you are as good as your team. You have to be wise.
I think a big part of that too is like, for example, like option period, right? When you get that list of things back from the buyer's agent, that they want all these things done, it's really good to have, like, you're a plumber, an HVAC person, a foundation company that you trust, right? All of these things that you can then go and have those professionals, right, inspect that stuff after the inspector's been there. Because there's been many, many times where we've where they try to pull the wool over our eyes, saying that there's this particular problem here when there actually isn't, right? And then when you get a professional to back that up or be able to fix that cheaply, right? That keeps the sellers from like panicking and freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna sell my house, right? So we tell them right up front, like, we get into that option period and stuff, and they said, hey, these inspectors, their job is to find stuff to, especially lately, right? Like, most of you guys have been in the experience lately where we get like a $15,000 to $30,000 over ask offer, right? And then they're going to try and whittle back that $15,000 to $30,000 back through inspections, right? And so it's really good to have those professionals on your side that can fix it for way cheaper than what they're trying to estimate it, to be able to say, hey, we're going to take this off. That for me, I feel like that's one of the biggest parts, like on top of title and all of the other things. Like, I think that's the biggest part, because to me, the biggest obstacle to getting to closing is that option period. God, I feel like option period is like a war almost, right? A lot of times. So as long as we set the expectation with our sellers, like, hey, these are the things that are going to happen. We've noticed that they don't freak out as much, right? When the stuff comes back, oh my God, they're trying to get hard, right? And as long as you set that expectation, you have people that can calmly come in and not throw a bunch of blame. Like, that's the other thing is, like, you can't have vendors that are going to come in and say, oh, those buyers are a bunch of fools and this and that, and get them all hyped up too, because I'm sorry, you're working on that transaction together. It needs to be a collaborative process and not literally like a war, right? So the trusting the same people over and over again, and you kind of coach them up on how to deal with your clients, makes it smooth too. So
Well, and I think one thing I was gonna say to your point, I think you mentioned two things really important is managing the expectations of your clients is the, I think the biggest one, but also having your team. I mean, if you don't have a team of different professionals, whether it be inspectors or you know, lender's title, that's huge because if you try to go and just call, you know, your inspector, you might be using this company I like using, but I know they're 7 days out. So that's tough to get the inspection in here and flip that around, especially if we're using, let's say, a 7-day option period. That's one. The other would be on, and this just happened again yesterday with a different deal. Went over to Morgan on the other side of the building. I actually asked her because it was a USDA loan that we had to come in. I did not think the property qualified. And I had to ask her, and she gave me the link to actually take a look at it. And I appreciate it because it didn't qualify. And had we gone with that deal, I even called the lender as well, and he was looking up. But you know, again, what the buying agent, what the selling agent actually puts on that offer, you got to check that because we may never even get to these steps if we don't. So that's the other thing I'd say. Yep.
Yeah, I would say like as a single solo agent, like a lot of my effort is also building relationships with my team, like my title, my lender, my inspector, and then having a Rolodex of vendors, yes, because they're all a reflection of you. So if I send a painter over to that house and he walks in with paint on his shoes and it's on the wood floors, it's a reflection of me.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to trust them. Are they gonna come into your house and do a great job? And on top of that is building that relationship. Like, you know, I have my people, they're like my family. So building relationships, you know, making rap videos with them, things like that. No, but seriously, I mean, you have to get connected with those people and you have to have your team standing behind you.
Maybe lost. Just one thought that I had from when you guys were talking about setting expectations and all that stuff. One thing I started doing about 6 months ago or so is that if you ever have, speaking of the option period, it really is the worst out. If you're working with a first-time home buyer, to get out in front of that and to prevent it, always the night before the inspection, because they don't really know what's going on, I send them a sample report. We spend 30 minutes to an hour on the phone going over the report and everything what to expect. And I picked one of the worst reports I've ever had. So they know like this may be mold, the roof is caving, all this stuff. Because that will shows them, because it's going to be very overwhelming for them. It's going to be 50 pages long, right? So I think them seeing that up front, knowing what to expect, really helps them move through the option period in a more efficient way. And then emphasizing to them that it's really reserved for the major items, which no one ever listens to. But it's good to just reiterate that up front.
No, that's great. Speaking of inspections, do you do your sellers do an inspection before you list it?
Not in this market. Not in this market. Sorry. I have had them do that in the past. In fact, I'm an avid podcast and book reader, listener, I guess is what there's people, especially in California, that swear by it, where they won't even list the house unless they've had the inspection or pre-inspection. The problem, most times anyways, they end up doing their own inspection anyways, right? And theirs is gonna be different from what yours had. A lot of times they'll say that they wanna see that inspection, and they'll say, well, we're thinking about waiving option, and they never, I've only had it happen like once or twice when they've had the inspection in advance. It gets out ahead. The nice thing is it gets out ahead of any major issues. Unfortunately, in the times that I've had them do that, there wasn't any major issues for them to fix, which is a good thing. And it also provided us with the opportunity to, when they said that there were issues, well, based off our inspection, we didn't get that. So yeah, in this market, the houses sell so fast, I feel like it'd be a waste of the seller's money, to be honest.
And I also, just playing on that, I would say no. Only because when you're gonna list their house, they're gonna have to disclose.
All those things.
And that's okay, I mean, we're here to be like honest and disclose proper issues, but I would say no. The only thing I do is HVAC is a big one, if they haven't had it serviced, I send someone to go service it, change the filters, like the big mechanicals, roof, okay, like you're gonna be able to kind of know by the age of the roof. But I wait until it goes pending, I wait till you're in that option period, and I wait to see what comes back, and then we go through the bullet points, rather than getting a 50-page report before you even list it, and like, you're sweating bullets the whole time.
Speaking of roof, do you guys know what the magic number is for when they won't even cover the roof insurance anymore?
15.
Yeah, 15, like if I go in and I know that, if I go in and I
15
see.
years.
Sorry, I'm used to the coach voice, I get that coach voice. If I see that it's over 15 years old, I tell them, you're gonna have to do something to that roof, because the insurance will not cover it, and that will be a major issue. Now, I did that before I had a signed listing agreement, and a gentleman in Santa Fe who I had a longer relationship with decided to go ahead and sell his house on Zillow on his own with all my advice that I gave him. So make sure that you're under contract before you go ahead and do that.
I think sometimes if you do the inspection beforehand, you could, and I would only suggest that if the seller is, if you know that they are handy and are being proactive. Sometimes you can use it to your advantage. If you get an inspection report and they're willing to fix a bunch of items, then you can provide that and circle the items that have been fixed and mention to other buyers and say the sellers are very proactive and when they're going to have to get out. So, other than that.
So what is the most common deal breaker that you have seen from buyers on your listing?
Stucco inspection.
Oh, yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, my ex-husband is a home builder, and we've built probably over 60 homes together. We have 5 coming down the pipeline now, and I'm like, no more stucco.
Yeah.
No more. Like, it's just extreme opposites in the way you think. So as a builder, when you apply the stucco and you put the water barrier behind the stucco so that water can't penetrate through to the frame, you've done your job, okay? But on a stucco inspection, as a buyer, you want to make sure there's no moisture in the stucco. So the stucco inspector wants to drill holes through that perfect water barrier and ruin that whole envelope of the house. So I'm speaking from the point of building the home and seeing how the different layers go up during construction. And then we sell it brand new, nobody's gonna do a stucco inspection on a brand new house. At least I haven't experienced that as a builder. When I go to resell it 10 years later, there's no leaks, there's no water damage. There's other ways to test for moisture behind the walls using the infrared and drill from the inside, but don't penetrate through the barrier. So I hate stucco inspections, hate them with a passion. And then what they do is once they drill those random holes, because again, it's random all over the entire structure, random, they fill it with silicone. So you're putting it's $1 million house, you're putting like 18 Band-Aids on it, and hopefully the rain doesn't go through the Band-Aid. Nightmare. So I don't like stucco inspection. And I don't like stucco. But I'm educated enough to talk to the seller and the buyer that if it's a well-built home and there's no evidence of mold, there's no evidence of moisture, and we can test for it the other 2 ways, then I am like fighting tooth and nail to try and get that done before. Because as a homeowner, once you close on that house, now you have to maintain all those Band-Aids. And as a seller, if they fall through and don't buy the house, now you've drilled a bunch of holes in your house. So it's a very controversial situation.
Yeah, deal breakers. Deal breakers for me have been mostly, yeah, roof. I'm trying to say this very carefully because everybody makes fun of me how I say roof. Roof, rough, whatever, yeah. Roofs. That if they're over 15 years, there's a huge contention there between the buyer and the seller, because obviously the seller doesn't want to have to put a whole new roof on the house, right? And then the buyer doesn't want to buy a house that they can't even insure, right? So that usually is one of those deal breakers. We were able to work through one of those recently. I think it's closing on Friday. I think. Yeah, that's been a major deal breaker. Previously, there was a neighborhood, because I'm based in League City, Marbella. Taylor Morrison, I mean, that doesn't matter. Taylor Morrison was a builder out there. And they ran into a bunch of issues with mold in the house, enough that it made national news, right? And so that's a big deal. That's been a deal breaker on a lot of those. So they'll do a mold inspection, and if like the tiniest amount of mold shows, and I don't know how many have a lot of experience with mold inspections. Yeah, mold inspections are interesting in the fact that they measure the mold content outside versus inside. And if
And there's like 20 different kinds of mold.
exactly, and there's so many different types of mold, like penicillin, for example, which you would find in obviously antibiotics, right? So the thing about mold is this, okay? Mold needs water, right? It needs water to be able to continue to grow. If there is no longer a source of water, you're not going to have that mold there anymore. But if there's a continued source of water, you will continue to have mold. So in a lot of these houses, what the problem was is that the AC units were producing a much cooler temperature versus the outside temperature. And so therefore condensation was building up in the ductwork, because that's where, you know, the attic is closest that you can get to those outside temperatures, right? And so that condensation and moisture would stay in the ducts or collect, and then you would continue to have mold in that house. And it would get to the point where like it's completely toxic, kids getting sick and stuff like that, and they're having brain issues and everything else. And for the longest time, it is just now finally no longer been an issue, but for the longest time, those mold inspections were make or break. And it was, I mean, you had to have like the cleanest mold inspection report that you could possibly, like almost to like not even possible, right? And because people would see just this tiny little bit of mold and just like run for the hills. And so it was almost impossible to sell homes in that neighborhood for a long time. And that was one of those deal breakers.
Yeah, every house has mold.
Yeah.
Every single house your house has mold. So depending on the numbers and depending on the area of the room, on the air quality tests that they run are completely different. So what I suggest, if you're selling a house and somebody orders a air quality mold inspection, tell your sellers to not be in their house for like, change their filters, pump up the AC, and tell them not to be in their house for like literally 2 days. No, I'm not kidding, because you want the air to be as clean as possible. So I just had this, and they had to go retest the one room like 3 times because she had the nanny in there, 2 children, and all they were doing was playing while they were doing their inspection. But like your kids run into your house, they're bringing mold into your house. I mean, it could be the mold that like we eat on cheese. Like it's not a dangerous mold, but I would say educate yourself on the word mold and educate yourself on all the different types of mold, because the word mold scares a lot of people, and some molds are not terrible, but that's advice for like when they do bring in those inspectors, like pump up the AC, change your filters, and get the people out.
Good information. Anyone else have any other deal breakers?
You know, I was sitting there thinking about it. I don't have too many deal breakers. I mean, a deal breaker for me from the beginning is I just listed a home, got an offer right off the bat. It was a fantastic offer, but the agent was actually the buyer, wouldn't communicate. And then her lender said that she would provide an additional letter that actually bumped her up in the amount that she qualified for, but no communication. And that ultimately, we got another very, very strong offer right after that. It really sunk the ship of the first person because they just wouldn't communicate. And it was a deal breaker because if they're not communicating when they really are in that dating phase, when they want to look their best presenting their offer and they're not, getting back to us or doing what they say they're gonna do from the get-go, it's only gonna go downhill. I've sold a home, 2 weeks ago that with a 19-year-old roof, and it was fine. And so I'm not running into those same issues, but it's more of a mix of old mechanicals and the old roof where my clients get a little nervous and whatnot. But I think for the most part, if you educate your clients that you're not getting a new home, that it becomes less of a deal breaker. But as the buyer's agents, communicate from the start, or you may be sinking your client's ship without even knowing it.
Have you had any issues with appraisal?
Research.
Questions are at the end.
Not tea.
I guess you didn't follow the rules, sorry. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. So there's a lot of strategies when presenting an offer. It'll be different depending on the current market conditions. Today, what are the best pricing strategies and what tools and resources do you use?
Yeah, I just double check it just in case. Honestly, my pricing strategy hasn't changed at all, compared to what the market was before. Basically because I feel like the strategy I use is probably gonna be effective in most cases unless we're on a real downward trend. What I do basically is this: I go and I pull the comps for the solds, right? I wanna see what the solds are. Then I kind of look at the pendings to kind of get a feel for what things are going currently in this month, right? That kind of gives me an idea. And then what I do is I go off of the actives. So I find the closest comparable I can that's an active, and then I'm gonna list under that some of the gun. Because I don't even care if the house is nice, our house is nicer than theirs. I'm gonna get multiple offers over ask where to the point where they don't even know. Like, they're not gonna have anything for them. So, because here's the thing, if our house is nicer than theirs and we're priced below ours, or below theirs, we are going to get all the attention. We're gonna be the prettiest girl in town, and all the guys are gonna wanna date us, right? And so, they're all gonna show up at our open house and our showings, right? And they're gonna keep us busy, and everybody's gonna see that we're getting all this attention, and we're gonna get flooded with offers, right? And this has happened whether we're in this particular market or even before when it wasn't so much like that. And so what ends up happening is we end up selling the house for considerably more than what that other house is listed at. And that other house ends up having to take an offer below ask, even though we've already received multiple offers over ask, because whoever loses ours will end up going over to theirs, but then lowballing them because they don't think that this is nice. And so that's the pricing strategy that I use. It's very aggressive, I think, and violent in the fact that I'm going to rip apart everybody else's listing in the neighborhood. But I'm a little dirty. But that's my pricing strategy. That's what I do with.
Yeah, and I actually, mine's very similar to you. So, I'll go take a look at that and I'll make sure that, I think the biggest thing is we manage our clients' expectations on pricing as well. If they want to, what you hear on the news is $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 over in some place. That may be the case. That's in my area of town. That's not that case. We're 5, 10 over. So I've got to be very clear and tell them we may not be 50,000 over like you heard on the news. But with that said, exactly the same pricing strategy, and then go ahead and make sure that whatever's active, let's put it 2,000-3,000 under. Because if we're under, the market's going to take us to above list price anyway.
On these price comparison or presenting offers.
Yeah.
On that, it just randomly, I was working with someone at the beginning of the year, and it was multiple offer situation, they're in KD. And I started presenting, when you have multiple offers on a spreadsheet. By no means am I a spreadsheet guy, I can't stand it, it's literally one of the real estate. But the seller, I sent him, we had 5 offers, I sent all of them to him, and he put them on a spreadsheet. And I thought it was the cleanest, most professional thing, and I couldn't believe that I never thought of it. And it was excellent. So now when we have a multiple offer situation, I'll create the spreadsheet, it takes me less than 10 minutes. And I put all of the important parts of the offer on that. Are they requesting a warranty? How long is the option period? What's the earnest money, price, etc. And it takes less than 10 minutes. Clients appreciate that so much. It goes back to the whole experience thing with the team and their experience with you. It makes it look very clean. They don't have to open every single packet that you send them. And I think it really helps with presenting everything.
As far as pricing strategy, again, it goes back to how much work I have that client do up front and my marketing. It all presents a very professional image and it commands my clients higher prices. When we do get multiple offers, I am that spreadsheet nerd. I like to line item out all those big important topics on the left column and go across the way, list all the agent's notes and all those big items that and then you've got to do a seller's net sheet so they actually see what they walk away with. So that's that bottom line, and that so anyway, that's what I do to help my clients get the most money.
Yeah, I mean, I use spreadsheet too, and then I do the seller's net sheet as well for that. For pricing, I don't do that. I spend quite a bit of time on comps, and every area is obviously completely different. I even go down and put like the same, elementary, middle, high school. I narrow it down as tight as I can be for the same lot size, the same square footage, the same age of the home, and just get super detailed. But I always price my $1 or $2 or $3 above the last close price per square foot. And again, it depends on the area, because some areas it's really hard to comp. And then, like I did have $113,000 over asking in the Heights, which I priced it. Again, I did my strategy. I did it high. I did the highest price per square foot closed in that same Heights area at 1.3, 1299, right? To make it look attractive and not 1.3. And I was like, the last close was it should have been probably 1.278. And I bumped it because I wanted to get that extra cushion, because we're all climbing the ladder here in appreciation and the time of the market. And my seller was like, wow, are you sure we should list it at that? I'm like, of course, yes. Well, the inventory is so low that, as we all know, that the second showing came in and offered $113,000 over asking and waived the appraisal. And I was like, what? Okay. So in that situation, it works, but I don't do under.
Well, you're in a different, this is what I love about Colette. She's luxury, right? There's no way that I would actually come to her to find out pricing on how to do a luxury listing. Anything over $1 million, like keep in mind, I'm working in a 3 to 5 range is typically the range I'm working in. So there's a whole lot more options really out there for that. But like, for example, when you are the only house in that particular neighborhood at the time, we usually try to set the tone for the market. And so, yeah, we'll list a little bit high on the higher end of whatever the last close was. But yeah. And here's the other thing, you guys got to remember that I'm not the one setting the price, right? It's really the seller who's setting the price. So this is something that you've got to be able to sell a seller as well. And if I'm showing up for a luxury listing, like with Colette, I'm probably going to want to have a little bit more attractive price than what I'm trying to sell them when I'm in a 3 to 5 range and we're competing with other houses. So it's a little bit different depending on the range you're in.
For sure. So what's the biggest concern that you think that sellers are seeing in our market to kind of tie in with appraisals and things like that?
The number one concern right now is can I find a house? That is the one thing that's keeping all of my sellers from being on the market right now. I've got 20 in the dang pipeline. And I'm killing my buyer's agents right now to get these people into a house so that we can list theirs. 100%. Our biggest problem right now is can we find them a house?
Ditto.
Are you seeing any issues with appraisals?
Just
Not if you wait a minute.
Yeah, recently, yes. Yeah, recently, we had one come in 20,000 under, which was crazy for me. The problem was that, kind of story time again, the problem was that the buyer was the mother-in-law of the seller. And so therefore, she wasn't gonna come down or she wasn't gonna meet them at all. And so the husband basically said, I love my wife. So they just went ahead and went with it. But appraisals, yes, they've been tightened up quite a bit. There was even one recently that I thought was a pretty conservative number for us. And it came in 7,000 short and they ended up splitting the difference, 3,500 a piece. But yeah, I mean, I'm starting to have it where they're tightening it up a little bit right now. You guys too?
Yeah, one thing to prepare for that is before the appraiser gets there, pull the comps for them. Do their homework for them. I always do it on every single listing.
Do you leave all the other offers, if it was multiple offers as well, so they see that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I've always worried about every appraisal. I don't trust any of the appraisers.
No,
You know,
yeah.
I've worried about it for years and I do exactly what Colette said. I show up and I do their homework, I do their work for them. A list of the upgrades, the price they're trying to hit, you know, I just have it all in a packet. They're all overwhelmed right now. They're all 12 appraisals behind. So anything you can do to help them, do it. Yeah, but I've always, whether my price point is 200 or 800, I just don't trust. They're often coming from, I'm in the northeast side of Houston for a lot of my sales, and they may be coming up from Beaumont or other areas, and so anyway, do what you can to help them and laugh at their jokes and all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely laugh at the jokes.
Yeah, make the relationship.
You know, we did miss on one home that was up in the Cypress area, and we had already priced on the high end of the market, and we knew that going in. Ironically, the seller, he's a mortgage officer, so he understands how the game works, and you know, we got 25,000 above that, and you know, we ended up missing by 25,000. But the biggest thing on that was, you know, I did do that actually. I showed them 9 different offers, all at the same exact price point. And, you know, the appraisers basically said, you may have the demand, we don't have the comps to support it. You know, so that was the one thing that did hurt us. The seller ended up go ahead and accepting it. We had also negotiated that if it came in under appraisal, obviously they would pay above. So that was the thing we did to protect the seller on that. But I would say, you know, if you have upgrades, if you know that particular seller was an interior designer, they had done a ton of upgrades that actually probably over upgraded the house throughout the years. Put all that down, you know, kind of like Colette said, do the homework for them, make it easy for them to see if you've done a $15,000 bathroom, you know, update, 30,000 kitchen. Make sure it's out there so they see it as well, so they can try to take that into their numbers.
That's great. So we're very fortunate to be a part of an agent-driven company. Is there anything that you can say here at Keller Williams Memorial that really helps you leverage your business and get more listings? It's a benefit.
I would say for me is the Keller Williams culture. So yes, we're like 800 agents, but I also feel like we're one big team. And so leveraging my business, like I know I can call Larry and he'll answer. Or I know I can, you know, message Kimberly, or I just feel like we've got a special culture here, really. And And that goes on to people when I'm discussing real estate and they say, oh, I'm interested in getting into real estate. Well, let me tell you about Keller Williams and our team. So that's another way to bring people into our business, and then you get the shareholder, whatever you call it. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, it's just building relationships again. I feel like we all support each other, which is, I don't feel like we're competing against each other. I know we support each other, and there's always somebody there who can, if I don't know the answer, there's always someone I can call that can answer it or help me. The education, never stops, so.
I think obviously the culture is really important. And I think when you're talking with buyers and sellers, you can use the office to your advantage as well. Talk up the team meetings where you discuss pre-market listings, off-market stuff, coming soon. That is good when you're meeting with sellers, because that gives them the impression that you have an outlet that no one else does, no other office does in the business, that you can reach 700 agents before you even list the home on MLS. It's not often that you can sell it pre-market like that, but in the off, maybe in this market, yeah, but in the off chance, it looks really good to them. And if you have a good month or quarter or whatever, and fortunate enough to make a Fantastic Four, or Club Elite, things like that, that's something that's really useful for social media. It's very uncomfortable in the beginning for me to post that stuff because you're talking about yourself, etc. But once you start getting more comfortable with that, you're starting to, again, reach those people indirectly, and it's another post you can have showing that you have been successful in real estate. And the more you can do with that, the more people will feel comfortable contacting you and wanting to use you in the future or refer you for business. I think that's one of the biggest things in the office.
Guy, we're so blessed to have Marilyn and our legal team at your resources. I mean, I don't know that a lot of other companies have that, especially little small boutique brokerages probably don't have that. I mean, that is tremendous to keep us out of trouble. I'm 5 years in and I still have questions for Marilyn of, oh my God, save me, in a sense, so that is such a tremendous resource. These panels, I mean, I sit in here and I sit up here, and yet I'm soaking in all of this as well. I mean, and the fact, the training that this office offers, the rewards, the Fantastic Four and the Club Elite and all that good stuff is amazing too. But just the support that we get is very, very special. And I know at some point the grass may seem greener too, but I cannot imagine that it's any better anywhere else. This place is amazing.
Specifically, one of the tools that I like to use a lot, because I'll do market updates and stuff in my neighborhood, is that Terra stuff. That is awesome. In fact, that's where I pulled that information today about the 25 and 35% year over year. And that to me is super valuable, because in the Clear Lake area, we deal with a lot of engineers, right? And they really like to see numbers. And so therefore, right there, it's at my fingertips to be able to show it to them in the bar graph form, even. I love that. That, and I'm telling you what, having only been in the business a few years, right, and being able to just jump production-wise without having Kimberly's support, she's really the reason that I'm even here, right, at the Memorial office. Without her support and her telling me exactly what I should be doing every single day, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So that's one thing. And so I had to follow her wherever she went. And so that's one thing. The other stuff, Bold, I can't say enough about Bold. I can't wait till it's back to face. I think that makes huge. That's a huge tool for you to grow your business. If you take it seriously and you do the things that you need to do. There's also, I don't know how many of you have tapped into the other things like career visioning, those other things that are offered by KWRI, KWU, type of stuff, like how to build your business, build a team, traveling to Austin and taking these classes with these people who've been there, done that. I've just never been involved with a company of so many people who have been there, done that, do it on a high level, and are so willing to share that information with you. And I feel like you can always surround yourself with 3 to 5 people who are gonna step your game up at any given time, and I can't imagine anywhere else when that's the case. So.
Awesome, that's great. So we're gonna leave on a high note, we're not leaving yet, no, y'all will get to ask questions. So what is a success story that y'all can share with everyone about? It could be about a listing, it could be about, or it could be what you're excited about moving forward in your business. Just share something on a positive note to everyone.
Okay. I will say take a different approach. We don't have a direct 401k as realtors, right? We're self-employed, so you kind of have to find your own source of income aside from that. So a lot of people need to flip or rent houses, and we've been looking for, I've been wanting to have rentals so you can eventually retire, right, as a 401k. And then last year I was referred someone who recently was divorced. She wanted to get out of the house, and she needed to find a new house. And we spent all this time looking for other people for investments, and we thought maybe this could be our first opportunity. And we ended up buying her home for rental for ourselves, helping her buy a new home. And I think just internally that was a big success for us, because I kind of figured out that we have all this access to people potentially before anyone else does, and we can use that to our advantage and create long-term success and wealth for ourselves. That was probably my biggest success story, even though it may not be that big, but it kind of opened a bunch of avenues. I've also got from other referrals that I've had, potentially now working with a big investment group. It's come to fruition, but it hasn't taken off the ground yet, but that could eventually be a lot of business in the future. So I say, if you care about what you're doing, you're not trying to sell people on things, and you're being very genuine and straightforward with people, they're going to notice that, continue referring you stuff, and potentially it could lead to something very big. And consistency is key in this business. And when you find that consistency, it can take you to a good level.
Can I get some next? I think the one thing that the biggest success I would say is really just being open and honest with the clients coming in. But I think using that to gain more business. And one of the stories I remember, literally my first listing I had. I remember my seller, as she's finishing everything up, was doing a little bit of touch-up paint, and the Home Depot made the paint the wrong color. She painted on there, and it looked like windows just all over the place. It's like it was really bad because she was trying to cover up all these little holes that she put into the wall, and she was panicking. We're literally 24 hours before it closed, and they did their final walk, and they're like, "What's going on?" And we ended up delaying closing a few days, but I mean, I was in there. Of course, I'm brand new age at my first listing, so I had plenty of time. But repainting the wall for her, and getting that done. And I can say that it was as scary as could be, because that was my first listing. I'm trying to get this thing knocked out, but also it's been one of those really rewarding opportunities for me, because she's actually been a really huge advocate for me. And we just did her second transaction, second listing, sold that. She's given me her children's information because they want to do that. But it's really about treating people right, and they will come back, and they will take care of you as well. I mean, obviously we got to still do our things, take care, stay in contact, but take care of them, treat them right, and they're gonna remember you. Yeah, no, it's a. Yep, there you go.
I'll switch gears. I'll just say that I feel like I'm my success story. I started this business a little bit later than many of you. It took me 10 years to say yes to this business. I've never felt fulfilled in any job I've ever done. And I've done some jobs really, really well, but never felt fulfilled until this. This is what I was put on this planet to do, and I know it. And I don't have a huge price point. I'm not in luxury for the most part. Probably average price point of about $350-ish. But just doing a good job for my clients and the word of mouth and the referrals. I mean, I would have never dreamed to make this kind of money and to be able to create my own 401k and all that good stuff. It is just life-changing how this business can, you're influencing your client's biggest transaction of their life, and yet obviously you're benefiting greatly from this too, and so have I. It's just, so I just finished 5 years. I hit 50 million in sales total, which was my big goal. Just was named Houston Business Journal's Women Who Mean Business in the real estate section. I mean, I'm just thrilled for all of us. We've just chosen such an amazing job that changes every day. It's so challenging, and my God, sometimes you just want to scrap it all. But it's just, I mean, gosh, think back to jobs that you had where one day I was in here and had 3 checks in my hand to turn in, and I'm like, holy crapola. It's like I've worked an entire year clocking in at 8 and leaving at 5 and leaving at 7 and get home at 6 or whatever to make this amount in a whole year in a job I was miserable in. So anyway, it's just, this is such an exciting place to be, and it's an exciting industry, and it's just unlimited. So anyway, yay.
Congratulations. So we all have, wins, little ones and big ones, meaning by closings and success stories, but probably my biggest win was when I decided I'm gonna do this thing called life on my own and go through a divorce. So I went through a divorce 4 years ago. We've known each other since we were 5 years old. It's probably the most amicable divorce, but it was the right decision. But for me, I was the builder's wife, but I did operations, sales, design, everything, and I basically got a paycheck. But now, 4 years ago, when I decided to join Keller Williams, because I knew I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna have to pay these bills on my own. I really dove into me. Like, Colette is back. Like, I'm here and I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And I got a whole other story for you, but I had a case of the Olympic blues. I made it to every level of water polo in college, professionally, national team, trained to go to the 2000 Olympics, and I didn't make it. So it's still with me. I love the sport. I'm super passionate, but I took all of that effort and all those life lessons and all those trainings and working my body and my mind to no other place imaginable, and put it towards real estate, and it's working. So what you focus on is what you're going to be successful on. And for me, what I tell myself every single day is to be present in that mindset. So it's a lot of mental fitness, right? Yes, I love to work out and be physically fit, but being mentally fit in this business, you can win the game at this. Everybody can be successful. How many people own homes? There is so much business out there that you just have to believe in yourself and get mentally fit, and what you focus on, you're gonna be successful at.
Yeah, that's awesome, by the way. I teared up a little bit. Yeah. See it?
You didn't know that.
I teared up a little bit.
You're always talking about Mike and his rugby.
I know, I've got a man crush on her boyfriend, Mike. He's kind of a special guy in my heart. But yeah, so some of you may or may not know, I was a teacher and a high school football coach here in the Houston area for 12 years before I got into real estate. And so I always used to tell my kids that if they ever need anything, that I'd always be there for them, right? I think it's getting this worked up. there was one of my former players who's still playing ball right now at a small college. He texted me about a month ago now, and he said, "Hey, coach, if I don't have $2,500 right now, they're not gonna let me enroll this year, and I'm not gonna be able to play football this year. And it's a senior year at college." It's,
You got this.
okay. He's not gonna be a professional athlete by any means, right? But doing this gave me the opportunity to be able to just go straight into my bank account and pull that out. And should I Venmo'd him $2,500 so that he could pay his tuition to be able to get started, to be able to play football this year. And his mom is a single mom, and she's a nurse and does everything she can to try and support him, and has always been there for him. And she just wasn't financially able to do it. But it was just amazing that I could just step in and do that and not even have to worry about it. And that's my win. So.
Great stories. We're gonna move into the question and answer section. Do we have online questions? So we don't have any questions online. If you have a question, you can type it in the chat, and then we'll read it. Do we have any questions from the audience? Kelsey, you were first.
You guys all did great today, by the way. Let you know. So two things. Number one is be careful with Michael Burrell in fantasy football. He's got like an incredible team, and it has to do with listings, you know. So just beware of that one. Secondly, I like big listings, and I cannot lie. Okay, just telling you, if you guys haven't seen that video, go watch it. But one of the things that took place last year is COVID, and we know that a lot of people did not sell their homes because, as you mentioned, they were worried about where they're going to move to. And now we have the brand new Delta variant. But we have a lot of people that are still worried about that right now. So what conversations from a listing perspective are you seeing out there or having with individuals who might be hesitant to move, or individuals even be in their home right now with that? And what's that conversation look like?
We need a Troy break.
I still got tears on my face.
I think it's the same as it has been. Whoever said it before, the worrying about where they're gonna go once they sell, I think that's still the biggest factor with the listing. I don't see any difference or any change from that. It's a really good question though. I haven't seen much of a difference. I've seen some people try to take advantage of the market, sell their home, and then go lease until the market comes down because everyone thinks there's this big crash coming. So they're taking advantage of that, I guess. But from my side, it's
Yes.
Yeah, last year when we first did the whole pandemic thing, we were doing the 3D tours, we were doing Matterports all over the place. We went away from that just because inventory is so low, you don't even need to. And that's the thing, and I agree. I don't think the pandemic, I don't think people in Texas are scared. So just not scared. So that's not that big of a deal.
I think you had a question. Do you need a mic?
Yes, hi, I'm Adam. First of all, thank you guys, it's been helpful. My question was, I know you said you did a lot of open houses. I also do a lot of open houses. And I guess my question is, are you setting appointments and buyer appointments at the open house? And if you're not, what are you doing after the open house to convert the leads that you got into a closed deal, basically?
Open houses. So open houses, yeah. And I'm gonna tell you this about open houses. And I just talk to you about this. The event itself, the open house, is really just an excuse to market yourself like a rabid dog. At the actual event itself, you know, talking to people and whatnot, the follow-up that we do is we send them a handwritten note. Every single person that signs in, we send them a handwritten note. And then we'll call, if they specifically like said, hey, you had a conversation with them and they were thinking about buying, we get back in touch with them that evening to try and get them going and get them on a search. We used to, and we need to get better at this again, but we would pull like 3 houses in the neighborhood that were similar to that we would put at the very back of the binder, that if they weren't interested in this particular house, that we have 3 other ones that kind of meet the same criteria that maybe that would work for them. And then we would try and set an appointment to go show them the house. But with the open house itself, for the listing perspective, so, because this panel is supposed to be about listings, right? So one of the things that I would do to be able to generate more business from that open house is to have signs everywhere. And it's not so much to have them on the main roads, to have them on every single street corner in that neighborhood, directing it to there, because the people that live in the neighborhood, they're the ones that are be coming and going, right? And if they see your face or your logo and your name over and over and over again, then they start to think that you're the expert in that particular neighborhood. So when it comes time to sell, you're the one.
Do you have your name and stuff on your open house sign?
Oh, yeah. I could get into this for all day. So open house signs, I see this all the time around me right now. And it's sad because they're spending a lot of money on these very beautiful signs that have their beautiful face and all these nice print and stuff. That is not how you do an open house sign. Open house signs need to be, and I'll say just based off of experience, that white is the best background to have, and to have very specific stuff on there, like your logo, open house with a directional arrow, and then the time of that open house, and just leave it like that. Because that way people can read it because they're driving, right? Yes, they have to be able to see it. You've got to see it, and you've got to be able to read it. And the standard size that they come in, if you go to like build a sign or whatever, I think it's 20 by 24 or something like that. You don't want the little ones that they, like the cute ones that have the house on them and all that, you know, those are too small. You need to be bigger. And you think, and if you're near freeway, if you're on a, think if they're going 50 miles an hour or more, Pat, you need an even bigger one because they won't even see that. But if they're going 25 miles an hour, it needs to be a big enough sign that they can read it within 3 seconds of being there. But the main thing is to have your signs everywhere. I know it's a huge pain in the butt to either get up and do it at 7 o'clock in the morning to put them out, and then turn around and have to pick them up in your nice clothes after you're done. But I'm telling you, it pays dividends big time, big time. But yeah, there's so much that can go. There's, oh my open house, there's so much that can go into open house. And I know, God, I can talk about open house all day. It's such an opportunity. Like that's the reason that people get like where the money's in the listings. Like I think people get caught up in the fact that the listings are the business and that the money's in the listings. The money, I mean, money doesn't fall out of listings, right? The thing is it's an opportunity for you to market yourself as a legitimate real estate agent that can close homes, right? That's what people are looking for. And when you have that and you have an open house that's like presenting all the great things that you do, just think, if you think something's over the top for your open house, that's perfect. Because that's something that no one else is doing. And that separates you from everyone else. And that is what's going to be in the future, the reason that someone hires you. So.
No, I just know because there's a question online. So it says, every company out there is promising to build your business and work magic. Any suggestions for vendors you have used to help with lead generating that you feel was worth your investment?
Send me referrals, Sarah. Send me those.
I've never done this personally, but I've heard of some that will split advertisements with you. Again, not personally, but one lender I know does Facebook advertisements. He splits the cost with one of the agents that refers him business, and they advertise on Facebook and social media. I've heard some people do that with other platforms as well. I haven't tried that myself, but I have heard of that.
Well, you know, one thing I think that, especially as newer agents, you know, and I know I don't want to say I was a victim, I go for it, but you're getting so many phone calls from every single vendor out there promising you the world. I mean, the reality is, there are going to be vendors that will send you referrals, but you've got to, it takes time to build up that relationship, that they need to know that you're actually going to be there and help them out as well. So, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest traps you can get into is, you know, hey, pay for this, you know, Zillow, pay for over here. And next thing you know, you're paying so much money out, you're barely breaking even if you do that. So at the end of the day, there's no way around it. You have to put in the time and the effort. You know, and like I said, establish those relationships with your key vendors, but yeah, there's just not one out there that's gonna work if you don't put the effort in.
Awesome, great advice. Awesome, great advice. Anyone else out here have any questions? Bueller? Bueller?
I don't have a question, but I want to say thank you for sharing and made me feel part of the family. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I think we are done. We wrapped up a little bit early. I want to thank everybody on the panel that took time out of their busy schedules today to get here. I'm gonna walk back into the front, sorry.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so everybody out there from Zoom says thank you, and we appreciate you taking your time. And thanks, everybody. And our next panel will be in October, and it's about building your business by referral. Thank you.